Hi everyone, welcome to the Finance Story Career Overseas series, where we bring you industry experts, finance professionals from all over the world to help you in your career. So Ireland has garnered a lot of attention from expats who have moved, to the Irish market economy to make most of the rising opportunities, work and live in a great work culture surrounded by great people. In fact, in 2022, the Irish government declared that there's a critical skill shortage of accountants, thus opening a lot more opportunities and curiosity from finance professionals, accountants, world over. Today we have with us Jay Patel, who is a CA from ICI India. He's also done his CPA from Ireland. And he moved to Ireland in 2016 as a senior internal auditor. And eventually in 2019-2020, he started his own practice, okay, known as Fintech Pro, where he combines his finance, accounting knowledge with technology, helping SME businesses. So today we will understand how and why Jay started his own, the role of tech in finance and the opportunities for collaborations between accountants in India, South Africa, different parts of the world with the Irish CA firms, businesses and SMEs. Jay, thank you so much for joining in, and I'm really excited to be talking to you about your journey and how have you built your practice so far. So thank you so much for the time.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Chantal. It's been a long time. We've been connecting, and I would say that the pleasure is entirely mine. If this journey inspires many, and if they give, if this podcast gives kind of a roadmap to many other accountants and your readers as to which way and what way they can fulfill their dreams, basically, or whatever aspirations they have.
Thank
Thanks.
you so much. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining in. If you have questions, please type it out and Jay will answer the questions for you. So Jay, let's start with my first question, which is what motivated you to move, from Mumbai, India to Ireland? And, what has been your experience so far in the Irish market? That's one. And what was the process of establishing yourself in a new country? Any challenges did you face? If you could just take us back through.
Yeah, so this is like more walking back the lanes, to try and understand as to what I felt during that time. And many a times also, it's been 7 years, about 6.5, closer to 7 years in Ireland. Let me tell you, this Ireland is home today. And I'm a fellow Mumbaikar like you, studied and grew up in the streets of Mumbai. And with all the wisdom and wits and qualification, when I joined the consulting firm, actually, little did I know that Ireland is going to be the place where I'll be, settling like this. So, but it's somewhere in my mind, I had that I want to go to a place which is much more relaxed, which has a great work-life balance, which is, which gives me an opportunity to be myself and at the same time get the best thing out of me. So these four things was something where I was thinking that I should be. And the first thing that when I worked for IM, which is a big contract manufacturing company, actually, and it's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. As a part of the internal audit team, I was been given this opportunity to come to Ireland and do audits and projects. At that point in time, I did get to know that there's a vacancy and there's a position open, and I randomly asked for it. And I said that if I could relocate to Ireland, this is going to be a great game changer for me to a different geography, to come to Europe, to work over here as an Indian chartered accountant, to explore as to what do I need to do further in terms of my qualification, or acquire some great skill sets, basically, or experience in order to be successful over here. The reason India and Ireland have many things in common. Both have been ruled by the British. Both drive the same way. We have got our constitution is similar. Our charters, the Chartered Accountants Institute, which is in India, and there's a Chartered Accountant Institute in Ireland. There's CPA Ireland as well, and ACCA. So all of these things where I did see the similarity as far as the professional life is concerned, as far as the warmness of people. I mean, I must say that Irish are known to be very friendly in the world wherever they are, and this country has a great history of immigration. I did not know much about Ireland back then, but when I got the opportunity that there is some amount of vacancy here, I thought that why not, go to Ireland. And before taking that decision in 2016, in 2014, I came here for a week on a project. So I got a chance. I already had done a pilot tour on what Ireland is and what it has to offer: natural beauty, landscape, and then, as I said, a work life balance. So my experience, in a nutshell, is that it's a great country to live in. If you see today among the top 10 countries in the world, the happiness index is great. People per capita GDP income, per capita income, if you see, of any average household over here in Ireland, around the globe, if you see, Ireland ranks among the first three countries. So, yet, I would say that a small country on the global footprint, but gives an astonishing experience to people who live here. So that was my kind of an experience. If I see the last 6 years I've spent in Ireland, process of establishing myself in a new country, like any other country, I've been into a warm, hot, humid climate in Bombay, which is exactly opposite to the weather over here in Ireland, which is very unpredictable. You might see four seasons in the same day, and uh, when you come over here, you fear that the entire horizon where you are living, your climate, the way you are used to things, has changed. So looking after yourself, health wise, is also very important. Clothing is everything over here in Ireland. If you don't dress well, I mean, in terms of protective clothing against the wind and the cold, you might fall sick. And to manage your health, the first winter is the test, as they say, because in some weeks you'll see temperatures going down in minus. So that was a some amount of challenge. Plus, the culture. The culture was also a challenge. That when we come from Mumbai, which is a very dense and a crowded place, you work and you think in a different way, as opposed to somebody who has been born and raised over here, or the other person whom you're dealing with either in a governmental office or at the institute, or whether be they your clients or you're going to an office for an audit. You got to understand the head frame and the mindset as to what they are, how they work. I mean, in Europe, labor is everything and space is everything. So, understanding the culture, convincing your landlord, the first landlord, to get a house over here on rent is itself a test in a country which is going through a housing crisis. So Dublin today has soaring high rental value apartments or houses. So that means that you have to put your front foot forward, and you'll have to convince them in order to where you come from, getting the references from your employer or the people whom you already know in Ireland, which is none when you land over here. So my manager, I remember back then in 2016, wrote me a reference. My colleague who used to work with me, and I just had one colleague, it was a team of three people, a very small unit, used to run the European wide internal audit operations in JBL. So they wrote it for me. I still remember that the HR of the company did mention that this person has an X amount of salary, and we have done the background check of the person, and he comes from India. He currently does not have any bank account over here. He's in the process of establishing himself, but we ensure that he's got this amount of salary and he'll be able to pay the rent. So these kind of things are the challenges when you come to a foreign country. You got to speak, you got to ask for help. You will have to be not within yourself. You'll have to, even if you are an extrovert, you'll have to be going out of your comfort zone and asking for help. And here it is, once you ask for help, I've seen that the Irish has been really helpful, and my experience was smoother in that sense, that the challenges did come, but I was able to overcome with the adequate support which I asked from people, and people showered over me. So that's all I would be able to add in this question.
Jay, that's amazing. And you explained it so well. Okay. My next question for you is, you moved here. You were with a European company. You were working in the internal audit team and doing pretty well for yourself, and it was a great experience, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you decide to start FinTech Pro? Why start your own? Especially, I think you were just 3 years into a new country, and you decided, hey, I want to start something of my own. So, tell me, how did you decide on that?
To be honest with you, I come from a Gujarati family, and the branding of Gujaratis all over the world has been more kind of that this is the people from the western part of India, which is very close to the sea. If you see the map of Gujarat, right? I was born and raised in Bombay, though, but again, Bombay is a coastal line. We always face the west. If you see the map, and we always people from the dock are always having where there's a dock, there's trade. You have this thing inherently in your mind that you have to trade your skill sets and make money. You have to trade goods to make money. You have to move from one place to other. So this was something which was in my DNA. I come from a family where people have done jobs, and I come from a family where people have owned shops and then moved further to have distributorship and moved further for manufacturing. So my entire maternal side was more on the side of the business, whereas my entire paternal side were employees of Indian Railways or life insurance company, and my father who worked for one of the largest manufacturers and exporters of diamonds. So I have seen both, and I felt always that what is more satisfying for any individual is to contribute and is to empower. So the purpose was, in a nutshell, I would just say that two things which I wanted from my career. One is the freedom. It's not the money, it's the freedom to today talk with you on this particular topic, and wherein in a 1 hour time I'm talking to you, but the firm is not closed. Somebody who's helping me from my team to do a tax return while I'm talking to you. So the freedom and the liberty to do something where you could replace yourself and empower others. This was the purpose one. And the second thing which I felt is that if you work for yourself and take a salary, you will always be the person who's doing something for himself. Try to be on the other side and give employment to somebody else and see as to whether you are able to meet up these obligations or not, whether you are able to bring light to a family or not, whether you are able to keep them in the way or happy as the way they keep you happy. So giving employment to somebody was something which was in my mind ever since I've seen the journey of Tata and Sons. The Bombay office of 001 Mumbai inspires me in such a way that Tatas have been known for keeping their employees more happy than their customers. So the culture which I wanted to produce over here is to form a company. The ambition was that to form a company which is an equal opportunity employer. I come from India, not everywhere, but at some places do you face that you are not getting that kind of an opportunity, or I know things but I'm not able to do things. I didn't wanted that regret. So no regrets, but to empower somebody and to bring light to somebody's family and to work in a cohesive environment where you are into an international platform, where you work with an Irish guy, where you work with a German, you work with a French person. Your client would be a Spanish guy. A person who is in Portugal wants to set up a factory in probably India and also do sales in Ireland could be your guy. So this whole multicultural element and then aspect to it taught me or thought came to my mind in such a way that you have capitalism on one side in the Americas, you have some amount of socialism, communism in the East. We are over here in the central time zone. Dublin today has the London time zone, where I've been able to work with internationally. So from somebody in Dubai or in India, half a day, whereas when the Americas start off now, this is going to be morning. And which is afternoon time for me. So I think in the best time zone, if I could manage something on my own, bail out my salary, and to empower other people, I think that would be something where I would see on my deathbed that I've made good use of my talent and my skill set. And on the world map, I'm saying that here I am, a Bombay boy who got everything in the city where the city made me, and now I'm over here to make and to contribute to this economy. So it's not that the lamp of India is giving light to Ireland, but it's more kind of thing that being a lamp from India to contribute to the Irish economy, and at the same time, wherever you go, you put your contribution. And in this, it's good for both the countries. So if you see, I'm being true to my country as well as adding value to the economy where I'm working.
Great. That's very inspiring and touching. That's great, Jay. Okay, so Jenna, from the business perspective, okay, how did you So these are like, great personal reasons, right? But how did you spot the opportunity from the business side? How did you what made you decide on starting, your tax or your finance, your accounting practice in the island market? So what factors did you take into consideration, and how did you see the economy changing, and you said, hey, you know what, this is the right area and the right time? If you could elaborate on that.
Perfect. I mean, thanks for this question. I think this is very spot on. And when I'm alone as well, driving back to office or coming back from office to home, I do think sometimes that how does this all these things happen? And I wanted to practice back in India, and my parents said that, well, listen, that is a little bit uncertain area. You don't have much experience or exposure. Nobody in the family has practiced, unlike your peers who have their parents already practiced, and you don't have a kind of a cover. So learn something when you're 27. It's too early. So I gave 5 years in employment. I went to industry. I started off in a consulting firm. So I was in consulting and in practice. Worked there for a year, moved to industry for 5 years, traveled around the world, did some projects in different places. And then that thing was missing, that, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Either I be a senior executive or more sort of a director into industry, into any company where I am, or and travel the same way, and then where's the work life balance going to be? And I'm any which ways working hard, 3 a.m. flights in the morning, coming back at 1 a.m. on different times. On a weekend as well, I'm traveling and I'm working from Monday to Friday. So if I'm giving this much, why not work for myself? And the idea was that rather than doing something which is entirely new, why not catch up a string from accounting and finance, which is where my education is, which is where I've spent 7 8 years working into the field, and see the market gap, that is there any kind of an ethnic firm in Ireland? If a fellow Indian wants to reach out to somebody and speak about double taxation avoidance between India and Ireland, how comfortable an Irish practice would be to onboard him as a client, because they are already busy solving the issues of their own, VAT related compliances or corporation tax related compliances. Why would they go for an individual return who is a Google employee working in Dublin but has RSUs being in India? So where both the laws needs to be studied, where there's complexity, where there's niche, why not jump in into that area and see for a year that whether the market accepts me? Is this a right product service match, or a product service market match? Let's put it that way. So I'm not into a product, I'm in a service. So it's a service market match. Let's simplify this. Whenever your services or your product is actually being absorbed in the market, it's called as the right mix at a price which you give. If the price is high, people are going to run away. If the price is low, you're not going to be able to survive. So the right service market mix was something which I focused on. And this is exactly 1,000 days ago. It's been last month we completed 3 years at FinTech Pro. The name FinTech Pro came up when me and my wife, by the way, she's a chartered accountant as well, and she said that something like this, where a finance and technology professional is trying to contribute to the SME industry. So that's where FinTech Pro was born. The name came up. The tech element was very, inspiring, because we saw in the market that there's a gap where at every time people need to, still we are living over here, we are in 2019 2020, and we have long huge files of paper. People go to accountants and hand over these kind of files. I said we want to do paperless. There's been CPAs in America, there's been people practicing in Dubai, and they are having a paperless office. Why can't we do it in Ireland? Let's give it a go. Some of the chartered accountants, you won't believe, in Ireland, I'm talking about not in Dublin, outside of Dublin in another county, reached out to us and they said that, would you help me to do my practice paperless? And we have onboarded 2 assignments from them. The outsourcing happened within Ireland, from a firm in Ireland. One firm in Ireland gives it to another firm in Ireland. The firm which has experience is giving it to somebody who is not as much experienced in the area where they are, but is highly experienced in the tech area. So we took out the details from uh, them, and we were able to uh, paperlessly turn all the documents. We were being scanned, they were being made into files, they were being put in such a way that for 8 years the records have been maintained, for purchase invoices, for sales invoices, for bank reconciliations. So the record is kept as per the government. It's all fully GDPR compliant. That way you are able to produce that back to the authorities when there's in case of an audit or something. So this was the gap. So the gap analysis was done first. And my partner Mukesh also comes from he's a master's in technology. He has done his MSc in tech IT, so he understands all these things as well. And we said that, okay, let's get on in together. He's an ACCA, by the way, and qualified over here, and I'm a CPA and a CA. We had our qualifications, we have our wits, we have a right product market mix, or as I say, service market mix. The proposition was now to price your service, which is very important. So we kept it lucrative at the start. We were not the cheap in the market. We were not the highly priced services in the market like big firms do. We were somewhere in the mid range. And we still started on the lower end of the mid range. And then after 3 years, in this 3 years' time, we saw the inflation, we saw how we are, and whether we are able to bail out our salary. And within the second year, we were able to bail out our salary, which were being paid to us in our employment. So we said that we are now at a break even. And so from here onwards, we will now start to profitize. And we adopted the same approach of how a big firm would do: one third, one third, and one third. One third of my charges are related to my labor cost, one third is my overheads, and one third is my profit. So that's how my free proposition comes today as well. Whenever we go for consultation on an hourly basis, we do charge at a partner level on the same proposition, that there's X amount of euros you need to pay us in terms of, let's say, an odd figure would be 150 euro an hour is a consultation rate at a partner level. And I do see that over a period of time, by the time I retire after 30 years, I'm going to be 30 years in this game. If God allows me to do and my health supports, then that's an ambition that you go. So this clarity is needed. You need a whiteboard and you have to make a business plan. What you have, what the market wants, what you have, what the market wants, and what you want to do. The three triangle. I want to
That's
do
amazing.
practice in tech and finance. I want to link finance and technology because the age is fintech, health tech, pharma tech, auto tech. Wherever you go, technology, the first person who's going to embrace technology is going to make profit. The tail enders in the market are going to just follow and they will be doing it for survival, not for profit. Mark my words. This is not copied from anywhere. This is somewhere which is in my mind, and I'm just speaking my heart out. That the first person who's going to embrace technology in his doings, in his work, is going to do it for profit. He's going to make profit there because he's going to get that first mover advantage. And for people who are going to follow, that will be for the rest of the people. You just think about your Tally. When Tally was not born in India, the premium accounting software today, right? It's the ERP system of India. Forget about that Sage over here in Europe, QuickBooks in the US. Anybody who embraced these kind of technology and softwares at the first are today doing a sales of $1 million already in terms of their billables at a partner level, right? And all those people who are small firms today, they are embracing them. They are not actually the market leaders, but they followed the trend. So the trend setter gap analysis was being done. The trend setter gap analysis helped me. And one more thing which is needed is an inspiration from a mentor. Nobody could see up that far which your mentor could show you, and this is what I have believed. And my close friend, is in the States. Someday, it would be nice to interview him, just for you as well, the CFO associates. I'm happy and glad to give the credit to him over here on this public platform. That Rolando and myself, we were both in Jabil together. He moved out 5 years ahead of me while I was in Bombay already. So I remember the year when he moved out was 2013, 2014. and I came out of JBIL in 2018, 2019. It's an exact 5 year difference. He does the same thing what I'm doing it over here, or rather, I do the same thing what he's doing over there, and has already crossed a turnover of about 3 million in terms of his practice. It's a
Wow.
mid-sized practice in Florida. Then I have one of my cousin who is a partner in that firm, and they work together. I was once upon a time also working with him in CFO Associates on a retainer basis, on an assignment to assignment basis. My wife has worked for him, and that gave us some amount of inspiration. If somebody of my own age, of my own skill set, my colleague in the same company could do it in a different economy, which is US, of course, a capitalistic economy. So the numbers will be huge, the fees will be huge, the clients will be huge. At least I can do it at a small level over here in Ireland and see what I want to do. I might go to England, I might come to Dubai, and I might expand from here. But the best thing is the British time zone. If they were able to manage the whole world and become keep countries as colonies from this time zone, then I think that we can leverage this time zone. So there are positives even in a smaller economy. You just focus on them.
That's a great preview. So Jay, I want to know how big is the Irish market? Like when we compare it to the US market, of course, it's way smaller. So how big is the market, and what opportunities did you see in terms of revenue, and how much can you scale?
See, if I see the market size over here in Ireland, right? If you see the let's go on to the population. Uh, Irish recorded, well, the census was being done in 2020. In 2020, 2021, they recorded a population of about 6 million. I'm just giving circa figures, approximate. Don't quote me on this. But about 6 million people living in Ireland. There are more than 8 million people living outside of Ireland. The country has a strong history of immigration, which means it's a welcoming country in terms of skill sets. If you're good, and if you're sane, and if you know what you're doing, they'll accept you. Uh, and I feel that as far as the market is concerned, there are 45,000 firms in the UK, which has a population of about 65 million. It's 10 times bigger than Ireland. We are not touching the US yet. Okay. Just see UK, which is a neighboring island, about 2.5 to 3 times the size of Ireland, about 4 times the size of Ireland. Let's put it that way. And here is Republic of Ireland, where it's a 6 million population versus the 65 to 70 million population, 10 times more. 45,000 firms in the UK, about 4,500 firms actively practicing and registered firms. So there's a 10 times smaller ratio. The shortage is taking it further to about 3,000. I wouldn't say that there's more than 3,000 in Ireland. So about 3,500 to 4,000 in Ireland. And so the market is such, small or niche or meager or micro scale is compared to the global landscape. So over here, I do see that the big fours, like any other country, dominates the practice. And then you have your tier two firms, which are not in the big four category. Let's say big six right now today. We include BDO and Grant Thornton as well for their billables. And these big six firms are the top tier companies in terms of accounting. They do have, like for example, Grant Thornton, I remember, do have also a kind of a division which is called as FAS, Financial and Accountancy Services. So they exactly do the similar kind of way what I practice over here. Their codes are very close to me as well. So if I see this top six firms, and then you have the whole series of other mid-sized, large-sized practices, but not big four, and then you have your small practitioners where people like us come. Somewhere in terms of, you want me to throw the numbers?
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you see the size, a small practice would be somewhere. This is as per the Irish Accountancy Awards category, nomination category, right? So when I see that form, I got to have an idea, because this kind of data is not publicly available, but it's through experience that when you get asked, or when the forms mention that are you a small practice, and you say yes, then they're going to ask you that whether your turnover is 100 to 200, 250 to 350, or up to 500. Now, 500,000, which is 5 lakh in India, 500,000 in Europe, So 500K, 500,000, half a million is the size of a small practice, I would say. It might go up to a 750K in today's world, the way the billables have been, the way everything has gone up, the way the prices have been revised, the electricity costs, the overheads, etc., the petrol and the fuel costs. So about half a million to 750K would be small. Somewhere in a mid-size category, somebody would reach up to a 3 million to a 2.5, 2 million, between 2 million and 2.5 million would be about a mid-sized firm. And a large practice would be above 2.5 million to up to 5 million. And then you have your big fours. So the scope is in a small market still huge. There is some amount of shortage of accountants, as you have read in the articles as well. There is an MRA between ICAI and CPA. I would reiterate that in the later coming questions you have. But what I mean to say is that there is some amount of availability. If you are really genuine and you want to work and you are knowledgeable, there is scope in the market.
That's
But it's
great.
relatively small,
It's relatively small, and the numbers you mentioned were in euros, right?
all in euros.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So now, Jay, can you tell me what are the kinds of licenses, visas, did you need to start your own? What was the process like?
In This is where the challenge is really.
How expensive was the process? How expensive was the process to do so?
Like if you see the map, right? If you see the timeline as to when did I come over here, and for 2 years I was on a critical skill employment visa, which was all been taken care of by JBill, my employer then. So the management of JBill had given me uh, this privilege to come to Ireland and work for 2 years for them. When you first land in Ireland on a critical skills work visa, you need an employer to sponsor your visa. For 2 years, you can't change your employment. That means that specifically, this employer has got you for your talents, skill sets, and educational and qualifications, that you've been picked up from where you are. You're coming to Ireland, and for 2 years, you are not allowed to engage in any kind of business or employment with anybody else other than this employer who has done your critical skills visa. Is that clear? So, other than this, for this, after 2 years, you are free. You get an immigration stamp of stamp 4, which after 2 years, 21 months of your payslip, you're allowed to apply for a permanent residency. So after, let's say, 24 months, you're working over here as a critical skill visa. After 24 months, you go to the same governmental office and you say that, listen, I've worked for 24 months. I've got my pay slips. I was an employee. I'm applying on that ground that in this 24 months, I've been clean and paid my taxes. And here's the tax statement. And I would request you if you can please give me a stamp 4, which by when you get the stamp 4, you're allowed most of the things other than voting into this country. So permanent residency is a very strong stamp. And luckily, me and my wife both got it because we both were qualified. And her case is more kind of a case where she came with me as a dependent and she got a job and was being sponsored here. So the best thing to do is, even if when you land over here and you didn't have a job, you have to make your CV and you have to emphasize your skill sets on that CV and your experience, so that it's hard for any employer to ignore your qualifications in both the countries, that you are qualified from Ireland and from India, or from South Africa and over here in Ireland, plus you have worked in these areas. And then it becomes hard for any employer to ignore your CV, and you'll definitely land in a job. Once you have a job, 2 years again. So she did 2 years, her, and I did it mine. We did it. Luckily, she got the job in the same month I landed over here. So we were very lucky in this process that both of us got the job. I had it from India as an internal company transfer, and she got it over here on her merit. So, which means that there is some amount of availability. There are a series of recruiters whom I do know with my time I have spent over here. And I might, and once you are over here, it becomes easy for them to schedule an interview for you. You get the job done 2 years later. Once you have stamp 4, the other licenses which you require is you have to go back to your institute and say that this is how I plan to do. For doing any amount of bookkeeping work or management consultancy work or any kind of ERP consulting work, you do not, or advisory does not need a practicing certificate. But if you want to do a proper tax practice, you would either go for a CTA qualification, which is a Chartered Tax Advisor Ireland by the Tax Institute. You go to CPA Ireland, of course, because that's the way we have the MRA and it's easy. I'm not a CTA. I have done my CPA. And within the CPA, the tax module has been covered. And then you show your experience in the number of years in practice and you apply for a practicing cert. In my case, I was lucky enough because Mukesh is an ACCA from here and he has his certification done. And with that, I used that amount of time, about 3 years, to practice in this area. And I had mentors where I have both been registered with other CA firms, where work was flowing from them to me, and my work was supervised by a member already. We have applied for the practicing certificate. Once you have the practice certificate, you are a full-fledged firm which you can run through. So this is the whole process. I mean, there's immigration on one side and there's your qualification on the other side. And then the most important thing, you need to be insured in this country in order to work on people's money and balance sheet. If you're trying to advise anybody in terms of financial matters, and if the other person suffers a loss, you get sued for it. And in order to indemnify yourself, you need to have an insurance policy. And on a yearly basis, the insurance cost has gone high, and which has been pinching all the accountants over here. People are not pursuing into practice, and this is one of the reason and a drawback that we've been spending about more than 14,000 in terms of our insurance yearly. So that's a huge cost. That's a cost of an employee at a senior level. Not here, of course. I'm talking about would be a salary for somebody in other than Europe, probably half the salary of somebody over here in Europe. So let's say if I'm giving 30K to someone who's a trainee, who's a graduate, who's a fresh pass out, then about 15K is my insurance cost coming up with outlays in order to practice over here, so that if I get any suit for damages, the insurance company is going to take care of it.
Wow, that's news to me. I didn't know about this. 14,000 euros is a huge
I mean,
amount.
depending upon at what level and how many years of practice experience you have, and how well you have been or what your qualifications are. Suddenly there was a spike in the rise in the insurance cost. So pertaining to if financial advice, and there are chartered accountants who are more into audits and in investment advice. If you are into these two areas, you need to take a special permission from the institute as well. And once you're signing balance sheets, yeah, I mean, you'll be seeing at a much higher cost. I know firms which pay 20,000, which has four partners and is a full-fledged audit firm. So the insurance cost is definitely a high one. Uh, we didn't realize this till the time, we were out of pocket as well on some occasions. The struggle was real. Uh, and yeah, we'll talk about this in the upcoming questions when you ask me about how was it. So I'll leave it till then.
Okay, so to summarize this, the license, the visas, it's all simple. What is the investment did you need in total to start a venture like this? If you're okay to
See,
share.
predominantly a service-based profession, which I am in. So the investment would be somewhere, I'd be talking about a 10 grand to start
Okay,
with.
fair enough.
You need a
Okay,
nice, decent phone. You need two laptops if there are two partners or one person and a co-partner or something. Uh, you have licenses, which is very important in terms of each client you acquire. You will have to take a license for him, for the payroll, for the bookkeeping software, for the finalization software, which is like the accounts production softwares, and then to store all these information in a secured place, which we use Microsoft. We are vendors to Microsoft, so entirely the computer which I'm talking to you is Microsoft Surface Pro. The software in it is Microsoft. The cloud 365 is Microsoft. So in order to use these things, I'm talking about in and around a 10K worth of money, hard cash in your pocket in order to start up this thing. Now,
fair enough.
very important, the government gives some amount of grants. You got to be very smart and informative in this area. because when we made our website, and you could go on our website www.fintechpro.ie, and you see there that it is a place where we can digitally sell our services. If you want to book a consultation with me, you go in there, you click a button, you put your card number, and you'll be able to pay us digitally. The moment you make your services available as a part and initiative of Digital Ireland, the online trading voucher scheme is a scheme which was organized by the government of Ireland through its local enterprise offices, which is in every county. Wherever you are registered as your business, you go to your local enterprise office, you get all the information, and then I had a mentor there. So the first session is free, and I made the most out of that session as an Indian person. I have everything like the way you come prepared. I went there prepared. So this is what I wanted to know, and if you can just give me brief points as to what I expected to do, I'll be able to go through and I'll meet all the criteria. So they gave me about a 2,500 euros to make my website. I spent 5,000 euros. They covered half of it. This includes photography, this includes headshots, this includes Google marketing, this includes Facebook marketing, you know, and this includes the whole website and the digital plugin in it. So there's a way where you could do this. Again, they come with a lot of conditions. You have to meet all those conditions. We wouldn't go into the detail, but if some point in time we can do a special kind of a thing on the grants. There is R&D research grants. There is in tax, there's one amount of also a particular incentive when an entrepreneur who has paid taxes in the past is coming up with a capital and is starting up his own business. He will get a subsidy in the first year. He'll get a rebate in taxes. So that helps. So these are, in a nutshell, kind of my cost structure.
Okay, that's thanks for sharing. Okay, so Jay, my question is, we get a lot of CA firms in India, in Dubai, who want to look at the Irish market because there's so much of technology coming in. Fintech is booming, right, on both sides, the north and south, right? So what is your what is your advice to CA firms or practicing accountants in different geographies if they want to cater to the Irish market? Do you think that makes sense? Because I know a lot of CPA firms or CA firms in Ireland who outsource to India, a lot of them, and it's increasing.
And it's
So what's your take on it?
I would say that the easiest way to jump into the market is also by collab. Somebody has done a complete amount of research. You are either in India or South Africa or in the UK, or probably we have collabs being done all the time. So there are three practices in the UK which have given us about business worth of 40,000 euros in the past year. So they had these entrepreneurs in the UK, but they wanted to open up operations in the EU. So we worked together. There are 4 firms in India today who have passed on their Indian clients to us, and we both are working. The bookkeeping, all the management related accounting, and everything has been managed from India by the CA, who is actually the CA of the client for the promoter group, and they support us. And all the compliances and the director structure and the board meetings and all the secretarial work in relation to your AGMs and everything is being taken care of by her, including the company formation and any legal advice which we need to take in consideration from a solicitor or to make any kind of paperwork to be done. So I feel that the world has come as a very smaller place. If a big giant wants to enter over here in Ireland, and he's free to do so because he'll be having a lot of resources, for a smaller person, we could work together. And I'm open to this. The whole idea is that the hard work of establishing is being done. The hard work of going through the entire drill as to how to satisfy the client and what comes next is being done through us. In this whole process, they could, in a case of bringing a client to Ireland, they could entirely go through us the workflow of how to set up an entity also over here. So rather than reinventing the wheel, using somebody, making channel partners, and I've been always open to this, and I've been working in the past with many. That would be the easiest way. Or if you have anything specific to ask me, yes, I can share that also. I'll be very transparent and upfront with you.
No, so Jay, that's great. Collab, even I believe collab is the ideal way. If especially if you're not in the geography, it's good to collaborate with a company which is already there, a firm which is already there. But we get a lot of questions asked is, hey, you know what? Can I establish my office in Dublin? Can I do it? I may be in Mumbai, but can I start my own in Ireland? Will there be a lot of visas and license complexes?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. So, okay, if somebody wants to establish an outright unit over here, which I believe is your question, in that case, they do need an Irish director. So, the first requirement is that you cannot set up a company over here without not residing in this country. The tax laws around the corporation tax in Ireland is 12.5%. People have in the past and even today milked the Irish economy because of low taxes. And now the government is very strict about this. Or either you'll have to give a 25,000 euro bond to the government every year, executed that if you establish an operation over here from India, and if you fail to meet any tax obligations or any kind of penalties arise, you are going to give about 25,000 euros. Till up till 25,000 euros, you're covering the government even on the first day, ever since you have established the business. So the cost is this. The cumbersomeness is to find an Irish director over here, which is again coming back to the collab thing. And the third most important, you need an establishment in order to register for the VAT authorities, which should not be a co-working space. So the Irish revenue doesn't like this co-working space thing because today you are opening an office, you don't have goods, you don't have a warehouse, you don't have a manufacturing line. It's easy for you to come in a hotshot car, sit down in a co-working space, say that this is my office, and other day, you are not able to afford the rent, you're moving out, and your letters are still going there, and there's nobody addressing those. So it's more kind of from a standpoint of management, this has not been welcomed. You would be able to take a way around and work through this and have an establishment and do this, but it won't last longer. If you want to establish it in a proper way, I would see that you will have to be present over here rather than, or you should have a presence over here. Somebody of your own who's your legal representative will be able to put forward yourself. That's the only two things.
Okay, so in short, collaboration is a sensible
Cheapest,
path.
easiest way. Cheapest,
Sensible,
easiest
cheapest
way
is
in order to
okay.
tap the market. Your goal has to be making money out of any activity as a commercially sound person. I always say this. Your goal is not to open up an office and wait for a customer. If you do that, somewhere you're doing it wrong. Or unless you are a big four, which has a lot of cash in the bank account and they don't matter. Well, even they do matter because they have chartered accountants on the board. They think every time the cost benefit analysis. I assure you on this that I have kept 20% margin for all the CA firms sometimes when I've quoted for businesses to win. So I do keep in my quotes as well. There's a B2B rate, which I give it to other CA firms, and there's a B2C rate, which I give it to the customers. See, the pricing is everything. If you understand this, somebody goes on my website and say that, hey, actually you charge this much for this. I said, did you read the conditions that what comes with that rate? And if you are a chartered accountant and you're telling me that, okay, this is the first time I'm engaging with you, here's your marginal discount, which I'm giving it to you, you are still free to charge the full price to the client. You got the money in your pocket, you got a connection in Ireland, you have worked with somebody, and you still were able to work and make benefit out of this relationship. So it goes together. I feel that this is the best way. But yes, I don't want to kill anybody's aspirations. Somebody wants to come over here and open a shop besides and work in the Irish economy, he's more than welcome to do so because opportunities are equal to every individual in this world. You're
Well
free to
said.
find out your way. I mean, you have to be good. You don't cut other people, you just extend your line. You give more. And that's the healthiest way of competition. My answer to this.
That's really well said. Cool. So Jay, I'll move on to my next question, which says, what challenges did you face when you started out, in the first year? I know you broke even in the second year. So what were the challenges that you faced, and if you could share that,
The
and
biggest
also,
challenge.
okay,
Sorry.
can I also add, how did you acquire your first few clients? What did you do as soon as you set shop? What was the process like?
Okay. So the first challenge is the shortage of cash. Okay. So you have You are two people in the family, much better. You have a child, sometimes, you think more about this and you need a more kind of a secure option. Luckily, in my case, it was just me and my wife, Hiral. And, I said that this is not the way I want to live my rest of my life traveling around and doing audits. And I want to set up something on my own. And she said that this is the time. I mean, later in the years, even if you want to do it, maybe there'll be some other amount of responsibilities which will be not able to make you that bold and courageous to take a step where you're leaving your job. You're not being made redundant. In redundancy, you do get some amount of tax-free income, like a package over here in Europe. You work for 4 years for the company. For each year, 1 week or 1 month of payroll will be done. So you get 4 months free salary, and that is not being taxed because you are been kicked out of the job or there's no role available now and you've been made redundant, which is not because of your own fault. It's not a termination, it's a redundancy. So in that case, it's easy. If you have the guts to stand and sit, keep working without having the focus on the money coming in for 9 months to 1 year, then you should plunge into anything like this. So you save, you have 1 year's of gross salary into your pocket, and you think that now, yes, I'm ready to plunge in, and I think that I will be still able to make a living without having much amount of compromises. I mean, this is your psyche. You go out in a restaurant, you just see the menu because over here is in the restaurant, the menu is outside on the door as well. So you are able to see through the glass door as to what is what. And you restrain yourself that, at this point in time, you're not making enough, or you still have so many things to do. And, you know, it just comes at the back of your mind. You have people around you and you don't pretend. You still go in, you enjoy your food, you come back, but at the back of the mind, it's always pinching you that, are you doing something real? Is this going to have, are we going to have a proper end to this? Is will I be able to get back to the level where I was? I've left a role which was having and giving me about 80K, 85K as a salary, as a manager level, and this is a sea of unknown. So the biggest challenge was, to convince yourself, to believe in yourself, that at the end of this year or two, I'll still get an answer that whether I'm made for this or not. And I have no pride in being an entrepreneur over making my family suffer. So if I see that I'm not able to do justice in this 1 to 2 year of time, I'll happily move back to the job. I tried. I didn't succeed the way it should have been. But then, I do have responsibilities and I've moved back and still I'm contributing. Okay, I'm not sat at home or went in depression. So that's still acceptable. So you're taking a step back and then you're waiting for another time that when the merry-go-round will go and my turn will come again, I'm going to hop on and I'll see that I'll go for a spin whether this is profitable or not. So that was the kind of a challenge to build the business cash finance, that everything is expensive over here. There's 52% taxation on the higher side for an employee. And you go today, Ireland is about the top 5 economies in the world in terms of expense. The cappuccino you would go out and buy in any shop in terms of your euro is 3.50 to 4 euro, which you convert in AUD, INR, USD, and GBP. You would see that the prices in Dublin today are equivalent to London and New York and Sydney. In some cases, closer to Shanghai, yes. So if it is not a big hub, why is the price so high? Because it's an island, it's a smaller place. Everything is getting imported. Things are expensive. So the challenge was cash, unique challenge. I feel that other than this, I did not see, yes, some amount of negotiations which you have to do when you start off your business. So that would be something that acquiring the client, when you said that, what did I do in order to get? Somebody told me, and he's a senior chartered accountant, not far from my office, and he said that I started this practice over here in Dublin, and Irish economy is still a little bit traditional. We like working with our own people, and you'll get a pushback sometimes, and you might not find clients easily, but just wait for the first three. And this first three clients, you have to put your blood and soul into it. and make sure that you don't ask any question and don't even send the bill till the time the case is not being solved and the customer is not happy, the client is not happy. That three will bring the other three, and this six will be 300 soon. And from this 300, you'll go 3,000. It's a service, it's not trade. You will not be able to market yourself in the way as products do. You have limited time, and within that limited time, you have to ensure that you are a profitable unit and an efficiently profitable run unit. So things will take time. So my challenge was for the first 1,000 days, I said, Hiral, my wife, that I'm not bailing out my salary. I'll happily come back to job. But within the second year, we were break even. So I had a year of bonus. And in this third year, I'm at 150%. If I was making 10, I'm at a 15. So I've bailed out, plus I've been at a decent level in order to, and both, this is for me and Mukesh, my partner, business partner as well. So both of us, we had similar scales of our salary. And he's been over here 20 years in Ireland, and he knows, he has seen Ireland in a recession. He has seen Ireland also today where it is flourishing. We might be in a downturn. We don't know, because globally we are seeing some amount of signals. But so far, so good. And I feel that if you have the courage to sit down for a year or a two, eating and sitting on your savings, then this is for you. If you are getting injected with a drug of salary every last week and you feel very happy about that, then I think that this is not for you. Because the purpose was beyond money, as I started out, that I want freedom over money. Because anything which is expensive in this world is equity, not platinum and gold. Equity is important. And that is your ownership, basically, as a business. And anything which is important in the world, which people have inherently paid the price since last 150 years, be it any economy, be it Zimbabwe, India, Africa, Singapore, is freedom. There's no price tag on it.
That's well said. And Jay, you'll be, I'm sure you're a great mentor, because this is some honest, replies, which is very difficult to squeeze out, but you're sharing it so freely. So I'm like really, really thankful for this. In fact, Eamon has joined us and he said, hey, wonderful, honest insights into living and working in Ireland from Jay. So yes, thanks, Eamon.
Thanks so much.
Yes. So Jay, that's great. But I'll just
Even
dig in.
Eamon has been my mentor. He has put a hand on my shoulder and he has told me that you have to put your head down and work. And we want to see something coming out of this. So I still remember my days when I'm sitting on the table in the Irish Accountancy Awards last year, and he walked up to me and he congratulated, and that was something which I felt as a mentor, that this is what Irish people are. And without his support and without CPA Ireland, we wouldn't have been over here. So I said that you need the licenses, you need to do things in a proper way, and step by step, slowly, and you'll find the light at the end of the tunnel.
That's fantastic. Eamon is a great guy, no doubt. Okay, so Jay, I'll just dig in a little bit. Okay, how did you acquire? Because a lot of people watching this would want to know, on ground, how did you acquire your first three Irish clients? Like, what was the process like? How, did you network? How did you get in touch with them?
Yeah. So, networking is very important, and it's a human psychology. Tomorrow, if you want to buy something, just think from a buyer standpoint. We're going to do a small little exercise. Okay, let's not make it boring by answering a question in a way that where you have asked me a question and I give you my insights. But let's do it in this way. Let's go back and think. Let's see human behavior, the art of selling. Nobody else can teach you than the Irish themselves. They are very classic marketers in the world. This land has produced great philosophers, golfers, I always say, marketers, salesmen, and someone who has the gift of the gab. They call this in an Irish slang that the gift of the gab is somebody who can speak very well and who can sell an ice to an Eskimo or a dead ox to a farmer. Let's put it that way. So I'm picking random phrases from all these 6 years, 7 years, whatever I've learned, but I'm enjoying this while I say that go back and think that if you wanted to buy something from somebody and you had options, that somebody who is from Bandra and whom you have grown up with, would you like to go to him because you know his family and she is Mary and Mary knows Julie, and you know that they were around you, and somewhere down deep you know that they are a hardworking family and they'll be genuine to you. You have that kind of a insight. And then there is somebody who is Mr. Mark, who comes from, let's say, Estonia or Lithuania or any random other country, and who you have no common background with. Whom would you go to in terms of buying a product or a service? It will be
Obviously,
natural. It is
yeah,
natural.
yeah.
So, in order to land in a foreign client in a foreign environment was very tough. It's global human behavior. I'm not saying anything new. People might be very frightened of or a little bit hesitant to share this. A Jewish person does business with a Jewish person, an Irish will buy from an Irish, an Indian will work with an Indian very well because we have common things to talk. It's human behavior. There is nothing wrong in this. This is not called racism. This is called preference. There's two different things. I prefer talking to you, Chantel, rather than somebody else, who's whom I could barely understand from Scotland. I might not get her question in one go. I'll have to request her to repeat it again. So many things like that. So the first client I got it was I remember was a caterer, and I happened to chat with him, and he said he did one of my functions back 3 years back then. And I just randomly asked him, that my parents came to Ireland, and I asked you to do some food for my friends and relatives who were coming to my new house, and that was fabulous. I always wondered that who is your accountant and are you really happy with him? And he said that, okay, I have this fellow Indian who's an accountant as well over here. He's been long over here, but you know what? There's been a lot of delays in communication. I do not understand. I have to give receipts to him. I have to go back. I said, what if I did paperless for you? Don't pay me. Tell me what your pain points are. He said that VAT return's not been filed since 3 months. I said, I'll do it right away. Where do I have to come? He said that in my warehouse. That's where my catering company is. That's an industrial estate, about 10 miles from where I live, 10 kilometers from where I live, sorry. And I go in there and I see that down is where the manufacturing is. We have all the machines, and up is a small office where is a computer and stuff. No questions asked. I worked for him and I waited for him to ask me as to what is the fee. And I did tell him a figure, and he said that is a little bit higher, so that I got a market signal as to what am I going to make in this country. If this fee is high to him, then it means that I need more volume and I need more people. And how am I going to manage this? And as a fellow Indian, why does he feel this is higher? Is it that he thinks that I have to charge him less, but other firms could charge him more just because I'm an amateur? Many things. But for that moment, what I said is that it's okay. I don't want to be my fees to be a burden on you. I want to make sure that we work smoothly for the coming number of years. We are a relation where a relationship is established. You know, you don't see about the money, but when there's a relationship which is new, where you're landing in a new client, don't be demanding. So it is a rule of life that you have to give first to get more. So the givers gain, and this is what I learned. The second thing is that the networking events. There's a chapter, local chapter called as BNI. I'm sure it's in India, it's in Dubai, it's everywhere.
It's
They're a
everywhere.
part of global. So there was a free lecture over there, and they said that on one morning on a Monday at 7 a.m. Well, sorry, it was a Tuesday, being Monday too harsh on people. Tuesday, 7 a.m., they meet up and they have circles all around Dublin. And I got an invite randomly from one of my friends. He said that, listen, you have started or you want to do something on your own, and it would be a good thing to come over here. And then do I realize that, they ask you also to be a member, and their business flows between. So there's a carpenter, there's an electrician, there's a motor garage owner, there's an accountant, there's a solicitor, there's a finance planner, there's a doctor. Everybody come together and they refer clients to each other and they put their 1 hour there. That's where I found another gentleman who is into service, and he said that I have a solicitor who is actually not a solicitor practicing over here, but he gives legal advice on immigration laws. And he's a person from Punjab, from India, but he was born here, so he's no more culturally Indian. If you talk to him, it might look like you, but he's not anything. inside him is not Indian. He's more Irish. Well, more British, because he lived much of the time in Manchester. So he came here. And I saw him in his office. He said that I rent this place and I need some amount of accounting work to be done. Set up a company for me. And that was something which is the second client. So the first three, and then I met somebody on LinkedIn. Well, I was just seeing that as to who are the entrepreneurs in and around Dublin. And I found another person, an Indian person who is having a business partner, has an Irish person as a business partner. And he said that, could you send me a quote for your services? We already have a couple of other accountants from Paul, and he has a couple of other Irish accountants his father works with because he's a hotelier, and we are coming up with a food chain. And let me tell you that this is going to be really big if you work with us. I went in and I gave a small fee quote for doing and working for them for the first year. That's a blue badge verified eatery in Dublin today. And Paul Stenson is an Irish celebrity. We've been working with him since the last 3 years. And many a times he has showcased me on his Instagram. And I've got so many Irish people following me because of him as well. And today, in and around, we still have a practice which is more kind of 80% from the ethnic community. We have a group of Spanish doctors who are our clients. Uh, we have medical practitioners who are from India, from Sri Lanka, from Pakistan, from Myanmar, from Bhutan. We have a German lady married to an Irish man who's our client. We have British clients. We have American clients. And we have 20% of our practice constitute to have still catering to the Irish clients. So Ireland and Dublin today has, out of every 10, 6 people are from outside of Ireland. It has a
Wow.
history of immigration, as I said. So if people are making this place as home, it's a multicultural practice. So anybody who's today in Ireland, about for more than odd 15 years, and he has lived the Irish way, I would call him Irish as a naturalized person over here. So it's not about the color or where he comes from. The Irish clients which we have got Indians who have been living over here for more than 20 years and have given up their Indian passport and have taken Irish citizenship. They are my Irish clients. They don't look Irish, but they are my Irish clients. And on the other side, I have inherent Irish born people who have valued my services, who have always taken consultations. And on certain matters, they've asked me, and what my strength was timing. Many times I do get that, we have an accountant, but we doesn't answer my call. Takes ages to reply to my email. You're very spontaneous. I think your energy is unmatched. So that I spend good amount of time in Asia, maybe just because of that. So, the Asian way, the American way is more kind of hustling way. The British way, the Irish way, the colder countries, they have some amount of different style. I'm not saying that somebody is good and somebody is bad, but you don't pressure somebody uh, asking for an email. That's wrong. And at the same time, don't expect that, okay, he's going to be very late and now I've given him an email, he'll come back to me 1 month. So there has to be a balance somewhere between. So any place you come from the world, you have to have certain norm, your personal ethic in terms of work ethic, that if somebody has asked me, we have a tat in the firm. Any urgent matters will be replied within 24 to 48 hours because we are not doctors. We don't work on human body. Not somebody is dying. If the deadline has been missed, it's just because of you. You came back to me today on a Monday night asking me to file a return on Tuesday. It won't happen. You have to there are certain rules you need to work on. So as an accounting firm, you don't work on human bodies, you work on human wealth, balance sheet, and reporting. So that means that we need to have some amount of time frame. This is not an E&E department, accident and emergencies. So that's how. And if there's something which is casual, and in business, we take in and around 4 working days. Something more relaxed, I might come back to you next week. And that's how is a working pattern being set. That's how the clients landed in. And from 3 clients today, we have catered on a floating capacity more than 300 clients, and on a
Wow.
retainer more than 150 clients. Private
That's
limited companies, individual tax returns has been done. Much of, you go to a canteen in Google Island in Dublin in the Silicon Docks, and you ask anybody during the lunchtime that whom you should contact in terms of filing your tax returns. I have double taxation. in India and in Ireland, they just say that, okay, don't think about it. Even if you don't have double taxation, just go to jail.
Okay,
So
that's
that's
fantastic.
that's the
That,
way it is. We want to create an awareness about filing taxes. Would you know that the Irish revenue owes people money back as a refund each year, about 2 million? But more than 2 million needs to be claimed back from the government. So people are living in a relaxed state of mind. The money is going out of the bank account for Netflix subscription and Prime and whatnot. And at the same time, the taxes have been deducted by the employer because of the tax credits and whatever. The changes come and go. Their tax credits are the same way. The employer doesn't know that the couple has given birth to an incapacitated child and might have to, give him a tax credit. Nobody knows till the time you declare. And the whole concept of self-assessment is that you have to declare your tax returns. You declare it through a professional. You engage with a professional person. A tax return preparer service has been given by our firm. We go 4 years back and we work, and the results were enormous. I mean, the word spread out that this man goes 4 years back and he takes interest on an individual capacity and does ask you questions which might make you a little bit uncomfortable, but he wants all these personal answers in order to get you a good refund. And that's what I say to your doctor, to your solicitor, and to your accountant: be as you are. You get
true.
the best out of it.
Jay, that's fantastic. And I'm sure it's going to multiply into 10
Thank you.
shortly. So you'll get a lot more. And it's great what you're doing. You're a very honest person. You've answered everything so honestly to help the others watching it or reading it in future. So I really appreciate that. Very, very few would, be okay to share everything, and that's fantastic. So Jay, I have one last question for you, okay, because
Okay.
I know I can ask you a lot more, but I
No,
have
no.
one last question. And that question is from Pratik Patel. Okay, so this is related to the job market. When you mentioned about your wife, Hira, right? If I got the name right. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that she found an opportunity on her own merit the very same month, and there are a lot of people who are doing the CPA Ireland, qualification, and they want to find opportunities in Ireland. So what would you tell them? Is the market as lucrative as 2016 when you moved in? What's your thought process, and how should they approach the market? What do they do?
Okay, we start off with a reality check, right? There's been 5 years, 6 years ever since we came here. The market, there was a last recession in Ireland, which was the '08 crisis, '09 crisis, as we know. From 2014 onwards, the country has seen a little bit of a pace in the economy. So it was on the upward trend. So it's coming up from a low trend, it's going up to a trend, and now we are much more into the cycle that it's going to go on the top and a little bit down in terms of the job opportunities. We have seen in the newspapers that Meta has reduced X amount of people. There's been people I've been seeing, my LinkedIn has been flooded with people whom I've made contacts with in the years, that people have lost their jobs due to redundancy or whatever, job cut downs coming from Microsoft, from Meta, Google. So let's have and be realistic into where you are. And if you are really good, and if you see a job opportunity, and if you see the hiring, I would just say that put an emphasis on your skill sets, what you have. Your skill sets is your qualifications and what you have worked on, and your experience on what management level are you? Are you a senior? Are you a manager? Are you? And your experience level is by the designation and the amount of responsibilities you are currently handling. And your skill set is your qualification and the line where you are in and what you're capable of doing. These two needs to be emphasized in such a way. There are professional CV writers, there are agencies which help you to write a proper CV, in terms of they're much more expert than what you and me are. We do know a little bit about it, and if you want to take a professional help, there are people available in the market. We would say, if you're really serious about it, go and take a consultation from them, prepare a CV, enlist all your details into the CV in such a way that you're hard to be ignored. Your CPA qualification is mandatory. If you come from a MRA associated country and where you have your ICAI membership, let's say India, I'm just going to give a reference to India, but I do know that they have MRA with different others as well. Like for South Africa, yes, they do have an MRA with the South African Chartered Accountant Institute. For New Zealand, for the US CPA as well, they do have an MRA. So Wherever you have the MRA, and if you're planning to come over here, you have to take your qualification. That's number one. Number two, emphasis on the CV, on both skill set and experience, that you're hard to be ignored. Number three, an active search in terms of if you can come over here and have a look at it and have and schedule meetings with recruiters, because there's a skill shortage. Companies on the other side are looking for right people through recruiters or directly on LinkedIn or on other platforms. You are sitting somewhere far away and you want to come to this magic island. How? The only question is that you have to try multiple things. Not one thing will work. You'll have to try out two to three different things that you are hard to be ignored. There are many people around in the world who are as qualified as me and all of you who are listening to me here today are. There are many better than us. Let's focus on people who are at par with you and are better with you. Forget about the others. Because those people who are ahead of you, and in terms of qualification, in terms of experience, in terms of skill sets, there is going to be competition when everybody wants to move into an economy which is very small already and is having a scarce base to come in here and work in this economy. The things have changed a little bit over since 2016. The housing is a big problem. I've known stories from my friends who have got an offer in the big four from India to move here, and seeing the package, they have rejected the offer because they said that I'm very happy living in my own house where I am for the small money which I'm going to get an extra few bobs, and what I'm losing is my friend circle, my family, my work life balance, the maid which comes to my home and helps me. All these things needs to also be taken into consideration as to where you are and where you want to move. I mean, I do almost everything each day. I'm the chauffeur, I'm the gardener, I'm the cook in the house some days, and only some days. And so all of these things needs to be taken into consideration, that how you want to move. The opportunities for chartered accountants to apply for their first job is very, very rare, because there are chartered accountants which are over here, are fresh out of college, and have been also sometimes struggling to get the role. So you're directly competing with a manpower base in a country. Just assume that you have so many chartered accountants in India and somebody from UK is trying to put an application to KPMG Mumbai or Delhi. Would you hire me in the transfer pricing department? What would the KPMG would do? Just think on from the employer's perspective. You want to do it, that's right. You whether will be able to make it or not is a question, because I do see the question is that if there's a first job, what is an opportunity right now? If it's a first job, the opportunity right now is very rare. If you could find one, hold on to it and good luck to it. But to get something first, it is important, as we hear from this conversation itself, that you'll have to prove yourself, you have to have the skill sets and the experience. Both are on the downside. So in order to work in this Western economy, you'll need a prerequisite, you'll need credentials to prove yourself. That's my answer.
Okay, so in addition, Pratik will need patience as well. But it's worth. Do you say it's worth, coming to Ireland and
Absolutely.
finding going through the struggle? Is it worth it?
Absolutely. It is a main it's a, I would always say that I say that this is a man making process. This is a man making process. Okay. Man means it's a man or a woman making process. Let's put it fair, that you come outside of your, any person who has lived, it takes a lot of courage to pack your life into two suitcases and to move into a different country. You come over here, you will learn each and everything by yourself. You'll do things which you have never done back home, and you'll be a person who will be able to know as to how to cycle on the road as well as how to play golf, which you would have rarely got an opportunity to do that in a crowded place like Bombay. You could barely catch a train on time. So there's a different landscape. If you want to live over here and work over here, you might not be a billionaire someday, but you'll be able to at least, do justice to what you're doing.
Fair enough.
Man
Absolutely.
making.
Fair enough. Okay, Jay. So, any closing, message would you want to conclude this conversation with? We spoke about technology and finance at the start, so I'm not going to ask you about that. But if you want to add any pointers, feel
Okay.
free. Yeah,
So 20 years from now, we all need to think as finance professionals as whether we'll be made redundant by ChatGPT or any other technology or any AI, or whether we'll be able to do. What is going to be always there, the human mind does not work on patterns. We take signals from the patterns, but we are very creative as well. So the term I would say is that rather than being a chartered accountant, my goal in the next 20 years, or everybody of us in this room, we should have a goal to be a creative accountant. And but what I mean by this is that, any new technology has come in, any new thing has come in. The goal has to be that let us learn something out of this. Let us make something out of this. Can I commercialize this? You know, is there a market for it? Is there a gap? Can this product or service be absorbed? If these kind of questions are continuously running in your mind, no chat GPT will be able to take off your job. But if you are into a mundane or a boring job, or whatever you're doing, I get happy when I file a tax return. But these days, in the age of technology, I've started feeling sad that the money is coming in, but I'm not really doing anything new. The 15 tax laws which I have studied, I'm reapplying it over and over again. I wait sometimes for an assignment which is as interesting, where I have to take an R&D grant, or I have to work for it really in order to convince the Irish revenue that okay, this is something which we have done. Routine is boring. Routine where there's no change is going to be replacing you. So as a closing remark, I would just like to say that this is for me. I'm open to share my goal, and I think you guys are the best judge, and you can tell me that whether I'm thinking on the right lines or not. If I'm incorrect, please correct me. I'm learning each day, and I'll be humbled to learn anything from anyone who's on this forum can teach me. Is that our goal has to be constantly embracing the change and give something new. It has to be more, even a little bit more than what you have given before. It has to be more. We all are in this economy are actually the instrument players. That somebody is into audit, somebody is into accounting and ERP consulting. The whole accountancy has been fragmentalized, and is been fragmented into different portions, like how medicine is. A cardiac surgeon is very different from an orthopedic surgeon. A transfer pricing specialist is very different from an auditor. Or our lines do meet like medicine, but a specialization is key. So be a specialized creative accountant, catch up one space and dedicate and devote your life to it. At the same time, always keep one eye out as to what is next and how can I embrace the change. How can I, if something happens to this, what can I do next? So that's the constant process, and in this whole process you learn to live less materialistically. You will be happy without any possessions. At the same time, you'll be happy when you create something, and you'll be really happy when you add value, because then the whole paradigm of life and the shift of focus will be different. Either that's for money. No, that is for money, because money is required, and everybody of us need that in order to live a comfortable life. But it's not the only thing. It's about how you contribute to wherever you are, and that's what I would say. So be a creative accountant.
I love the term be a creative accountant. That's amazing. That's great. So, Jay, I mean, I've learned a lot during this conversation. I've noted down a lot of pointers. Okay. And there's so much of, we've got a lot of takeaways from this entire, you could say 1.5 hours. So, thank you so much for the time
No
and
problem.
for elaborating and being so transparent to help others. So, Jay, thanks a lot. And we'll definitely do another session sometime soon, or maybe in a month or two, to understand a little more, depending on the questions we get. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So,
Absolutely.
yes, Jay.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, and I must thank you and the finance story that we were able to make this out of your busy schedule. We do know that a couple of times we had to reschedule this, or postpone this, and if any inconvenience has been caused in this whole process, I would like to apologize. Number one, and
I
second
need
is
to do that. I need to do that.
no, 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 and that's fine. And any other thing, any other questions, if do people have, I have. a LinkedIn profile. You can reach out to me over here on LinkedIn and post your questions. I'll be as transparent as I am here, and I'll try to help the most I can. We have a chapter over here, the ICAI chapter, which does get all the emails. There are office bearers in the chapter. I'm the vice chairman. There's a chairman. We have a secretary, treasurer, and a committee of 5 individuals. Ireland today has about more than 100 chartered accountants working in the Irish economy, whether it be practice or industry. Ireland has the second largest number of members in Europe after Netherlands. The Netherlands chapter is the strongest in Europe, followed by Ireland. And of course, when the UK was in the EU at that time, when we were together in Europe, the UK was the number one because that has the biggest amount of influx of Indian chartered accountants working in the London economy, in the UK economy, let's put it that way. So that's what we are, and over here we are happy to help. And if there's any way we could collab or we could do business together, also I'm open to that, and we can have different kind of conversations in the future, of course through the finance story, where we can curate a particular topic and we'll be able to explain in a broader detail about that kind of topic. And would welcome if anybody is over here in Ireland already and is looking out for a job and has need some amount of suggestions. Also over a weekend, if I do get a time on a Saturday, I would try to give an hour and a half. I don't mind doing that in order to help somebody to secure a role.
That's very kind of you, Jay. That's amazing. So yes, Jay, I mean, we've had this great conversation. Thank you again for the time, and we'll see you soon. Thank you again. You have a great day. Thank you. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Take care. Bye. See you.